Adventure in the Andamans. What I am about to tell you happened many years ago. I was just a young boy, and the Andaman Islands were my vacation playground every summer.
Manav, please don't go in too deep.
My mother shouted from her spot on the beautiful sunny beach. Yes, Ma, I replied. I loved the beach, and the ocean was home to me. When I used to snorkel, I pretended I was entering a secret world filled with mysterious creatures. That morning, I floated on my back for a while, enjoying the warm sunlight. And then I put my head under the water again. The next moment, I felt something touch my shoulder. A turtle! A tiny turtle! I shouted to myself through my bulky mask. I followed him through shoals of tiny fish and hundreds of other glorious rainbow-colored fish. As I allowed myself to glide gracefully next to the tiny turtle, I felt his flipper touch my hand. I stayed close, and the two of us swam together. After some time, I decided to put my head above the water to clear my mask while Tiny, the turtle, crunched on some green seaweed. I looked back at the beach. My mother will be worried. Tiny, I have to go, but I'll be back tomorrow, okay? It's hard to explain, but I think Tiny smiled at me. I didn't tell anyone about my turtle, and that night I dreamt about Tiny showing me the whole ocean. The next morning, I almost dragged my parents to the beach, and then quickly wore my rubber flippers and wobbled into the clear blue water.
Be careful, Manav.
Called my mother as usual. Of course, Ma, I replied. I swam out to a safe depth and then waved to my parents. When I reached my usual area near the big black rocks, Tiny was waiting. My heart skipped a beat as he smiled at me again and then asked me to follow him. Not with words, of course, but I just knew. And then, Tiny took me on a magical journey. We swam through giant coral reefs, glided past slimy eels, and saw thousands of starfish resting on a rock. But Tiny saved the best until last. Basking in the reflection of the summer sun, I discovered a whole family of turtles. This was Tiny's family. I was dizzy with excitement. After a few moments, I thought it best to thrust my head out of the water and get some fresh air. Then, as I plunged back down to join Tiny, I nearly choked. I saw him twisting and turning in a section of fishing net, a silver hook planted firmly in his back left leg. Wait, Tiny, I cried. I'll help you, but you have to trust me. Tiny stayed perfectly still, but I could see the pain in his eyes. My hands were shaky, but soon I gently pulled the hook free and the net came away easily. Tiny was safe. I gathered up the net as I didn't want any other turtle getting caught. I suddenly realized I had been away from the beach for quite some time. So I waved to the turtle family and rose to the surface. But the beach seemed so far, and my parents were just tiny little dots. I had never been so shocked or frightened in my life. Tears filled my eyes as I tried to keep moving my hands and feet. They felt as if they were made of iron. Tiny, I cried. I'm so tired, and the beach is so far away. I simply can't swim back. Suddenly, I found a huge turtle beneath me. I gently reached down to hold the edge of her shell, and she started to move slowly. I held my breath, and we soon started moving through the water easily. I found that Tiny followed us too. It was a ride I would never forget. I spotted my worried parents walking up and down the shore, waiting for me. As soon as it was shallow enough for me to stand, Tiny and the big turtle moved away. I stood on shaky legs, and as I looked back, Tiny poked his head out of the water and gave me one final smile. That was the last time I ever saw Tiny, but it was the best day of my life. I told my parents what had happened and even showed them the net, but they just thought I'd been playing imaginary games. I still have that net today, but have never told anyone else my story. I knew nobody would ever believe me, except maybe you.